Assalamu alaikum. This is the macroeconomic theory course, advanced approach directed to fourth year economics section. Let's now take an overview about the aggregate expenditures and national income.
The main goals of these chapters: first, how the equilibrium in the goods markets is determined inside a certain economy. Second, what's meant by multiplier and how the value of multiplier is determined or measured in a certain economy. In order to learn how the equilibrium in goods markets is determined, we have to understand first how the economy works, and this is illustrated by circular flow of national income that we have taken before. This circular flow of national income shows the payments made and income received by each participant inside the economy. As you know, that any economy consists of four sectors: household sector, which are consumers; firm sector, which are producers; government sectors; and finally foreign sectors. And according to the active sector inside the economy, we could determine the type of our economy. For instance, if household sector and business sectors are the only active sectors inside the economy, we call this economy closed economy without government. When government sector enters and be active inside the economy, we call this economy closed economy with governments. And when we allow for foreign sector to be active, we call this economy open economy. So in this chapter, we're gonna learn the equilibrium condition in each type of these economies. Let's start by a closed economy without government. Such a type of economy, we have only two active sectors. Household sector represents the demand side of the economy. They are the owners of factors of production, which are labor, land, capital, and entrepreneur. And business sector, which represents the supply side of the economy. First of all, household sector provides factors of production to the business sector, who use these factors of production in order to produce goods and services available and pay or make payments for it. These payments take the form of wages, rent, interest, and dividends. The sum of these returns or payments are called the national income. Household sector use these payments in order to buy goods and services produced. Now, the equilibrium in a closed economy without government could be determined through two approaches. First one occurs when national income, which represents the supply side of the goods market, equals the desired aggregate expenditures, which represent the demand side of goods markets. Concerning the supply side of goods markets, which is national income, in this case, it is divided between consumption and saving. Why? Because we are in a closed economy without government. Concerning the demand side of goods market, represented by desired aggregate expenditures, it is the total expenditures or spending needed by the active sector inside the economy in order to buy the final domestic goods produced. In this case, we are in a closed economy without government. We have only two active sectors inside the economy, household sector and business sector. In this case, we have only two elements of desired aggregate expenditure. We have desired aggregate consumption needed by household sector and desired investment expenditures needed by investment or business sector. Concerning investment expenditures, we consider this variable as exogenous or autonomous. So it is a given number, while consumption represented by a function, a plus by. A represents the autonomous consumption, or we call it wealth. It is a part of consumption that does not relate to the level of income. It is the intercept of the function, while B, it is the slope. It is a part of consumption that is related to the level of income. We call it marginal propensity to consume. The first approach to get equilibrium could be represented graphically by the intersection between the 45 degrees line, which represents national income, the supply side of goods markets, and aggregate expenditure or desired aggregate expenditures, which represent the demand side of goods market. In this case, at point E, goods markets would be in equilibrium, where the national income equals desired aggregate expenditures, or the aggregate demand equals aggregate supply inside the economy. Any point to the right or to the left of point E cannot be an equilibrium point. For example, to the right of the equilibrium, for example, point F, there would be an excess supply in the goods market. Why? Because the 45 degrees line lies above the desired aggregate expenditures line. In this case, aggregate supply for goods exceeds aggregate demand. There would be an excess supply for goods. In order to restore equilibrium, we have to get rid of this excess supply. In this case, sales should be decreased and output should be decreased and inventory would be accumulated. By doing so, the equilibrium would be restored at point E. Also, to the left of the equilibrium, for example, point G, there will not be an equilibrium at point G. Why? Because aggregate expenditures lies above national income, aggregate demand in goods markets greater than aggregate supply. So there would be an excess demand. And in order to restore equilibrium, we have to meet this excess demand. So output should increase, sales should increase, and inventory would decrease. In this case, equilibrium would be restored at point E. Now we turn to the second approach to equilibrium, which is the saving investment approach. According to this approach, equilibrium in the closed economy without governments occurs when withdrawals equals injections. In a closed economy without government, we have just only one kind of withdrawals, which is savings, and just one only kind of injection, which is investment. Graphically, this is represented by the intersection between savings and investments function. As we know, investment is exogenous, represented by horizontal line.
Now we will move to another topic, which is very important, which is the simple multiplier. Multiplier, it means مضاعف. Okay, what is the concept behind the multiplier? ازاي افهم معنى المضاعف وازاي بيتحسب inside a certain economy. Now we are talking about closed economy without government. We call this multiplier simple multiplier, and we have so many types of multiplier, so we call this simple spending multiplier. الرمز بتاعه K. تمام. طيب أصل الموضوع إيه؟ إن دلوقتي for any increase or extra change in income، أي زيادة في الانكم عندي just مثلا ب$1 million، احنا قلنا ان احنا في closed economy without government، فزيادة في الانكم it would be divided into consumption and saving. فقرار أي أو قرار الهاوسهولد sector to make consumption احنا بنعبر عنه بالmargin propensity to consume. تمام. واحنا قلنا برضو ان يعني ده افتراض we make an assumption that the margin propensity to consume is constant inside the economy. طبعا ده يعني it's not in real life، بس ده assumption عشان تبسيط الموضوع. تمام. So the initial spending inside the economy، this initial spending جاء من فين؟ جاء ان انا عندي extra income، فانا جزء منه هيروح للconsumption، جزء تاني هيروح للsaving. الجزء اللي هيروح للconsumption now the household sector buy products inside the economy. So الفلوس اللي هيدفعوها عشان يشتروا البرودكتس دي بالنسبة لهم consumption وبصرفوها، لكن for other people it is their income. فبالتالي السبندنج اللي أنا عملته في الأول اللي كلنا عملناه كهاوس هولد سيكتور ده generates income لأشخاص تانيين inside the economy. This income also will be divided into consumption and saving. وبرضو الconsumption ده spending هيروح لother products. ممكن يكون الspending ده اللي هيتعمل تاني مرة يكون investment spending. تمام. فبالتالي هيبقى فيه generations of income inside the economy. والبروسيس ديت هيفضل الانكم بيزيد لحد ما يوصل لحد معين. فأنا عايز أعرف first of all خالص إن أول زيادة عندي في الانكم اللي أنا وجهت مثلا منها ال MPC بتاعي مثلا لو كان هو 0.5. ال 0.5 ديت اللي أنا وجهتها في الأول خالص للconsumption أو initial spending بتاعي whatever inside the economy عمل generation or final increase in income في الآخر خالص بقد إيه. اللي بيقيس لي ده هو المالتبلاير. Okay. Once again, every time there is an injection of new demand into the circular flow of income, new demand and new spending, there is likely to be a multiplier effect. This is because an injection of extra income, أي زيادة في الانكم inside closed economy without government leads to more spending. والspending بيتقسم ل consumption plus investments. This would generate more income and so on. The multiplier effect refers to the increase in final income arising from any new injection of spending. هو بيقيس لي ال final increase or final change in equilibrium national income as a result of initial increase or a change in autonomous spending. يعني أي زيادة في الspending، أي تغير في الspending ممكن يزيد ممكن يقل، هيؤدي في الآخر خالص لفاينل change in equilibrium national income. طبعا في البروسيس دي بيبقى في يعني بتاخد steps كتيرة، عشان كده الانيشال change in spending سواء كان consumption أو investment ده هيؤدي في النهاية لفاينل change in equilibrium national income. How to get the multiplier equation? We start by equilibrium condition in a closed economy without government, where the demand side of goods market equals supply side of goods market. Demand side represented by desired aggregate expenditures, while supply side هو national income. طبعا aggregate expenditures in a closed economy without government بتتقسم للconsumption والinvestment. بجمع autonomous consumption اللي هو A، autonomous investment I بجمعهم مع بعض وبقول عليها اللي هي AE note اللي هي autonomous aggregate expenditures inside the economy in this case. تمام. يبقى autonomous aggregate expenditures plus BY equal Y. احنا قلنا البي اللي هي margin propensity to consume، دي اللي بتعكس the decision of household sector about the amount of their income that is must directed to consumption. يعني هو ده القرار اللي بياخده consumers inside the economy ان هم بيصرفوا قد ايه من الانكم بتاعهم على consumption represented by B. B it is margin propensity to consume. تمام. هنوصل في النهاية اللي أنا عايزة أجيب the change in Y over a change in initial or a change in autonomous spending. أنا أراها إزاي؟ دايما ببتدي من تحت بقول إيه any increase or any change in autonomous spending would result in final a change in national income by the amount of 1 over 1 minus B. Okay. Okay. The equation of multiplier K equal 1 over 1 minus B. 1 minus B, it means marginal propensity to save. What this indicates? It indicates that the size of multiplier depends on the household marginal decision to spend, called marginal propensity to consume or marginal propensity to save. It is important to remember that when income is spent, this spending becomes someone else's income, and so on. Marginal propensity shows the proportion of extra income allocated to particular activities, such as investment spending by business sector, saving by household sector. This is when we are in a closed economy without governments. So, the value of multiplier equals 1 over 1 minus B. It means it depends on marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save. عشان نفهم اللوجيك هندي 2 examples. فرضا لو عندي ال MBC equal 0.8 دي معناها ايه؟ معناها ان for any extra increase in income the household sector would spend on consumption about 0.8. ال spending ده بيعتبر the income for another sector inside the economy وده بينتج عنه other spending activities اللي ممكن تنتج عن ال consumption ده وال initial spending اللي احنا عملناه ان يبقى عندي مثلا investment spending inside the economy. اوكي فكل ده generates more income. طيب عشان عايزة اعرف ال final change in national income هيكون كام؟ بحسب قيمة المالتبلاير اللي هي 1 over 1 minus B يعني 1 over 1 minus 0.8 which equals 5. 5 دي بتقول ايه؟ يعني any initial increase of autonomous spending by 1 unit would cause a final change or increase in this case عشان بالpositive of equilibrium national income by 5 monetary units. بمعنى لو أنا زودت ال spending بتاعي مثلا ب 1 million pound equilibrium national income هيزيد في النهاية خالص ب 5 million pound. ليه أنا بقول equilibrium national income؟ عشان المultiplier ابتدينا عشان نجيب equation of multiplier we start at equilibrium position inside a closed economy without government. Okay, this is meant by K equal 5. What's meant by 5? It is a change in Y over a change in aggregate expenditure or autonomous aggregate expenditures. What does it mean? It means for any change or for any, in this case, for any increase in autonomous spending by 1 monetary unit, this causes a final increase in equilibrium national income by 5 monetary units. طب another example لو ال MBC عندي ب 0.5 لما اجي احسب ال value of multiplier يبقى 1 over 1 minus 0.5 هيديني K equals 2. ده معناها ايه؟ For any increase in autonomous spending by 1 monetary unit, this causes a final change or increase in equilibrium national income by 2 monetary units. ده معناها ايه؟ كل ما يكون عندي ال MBC كبيرة the value of multiplier would increase. So what is the reasons for the difference in the amount? What is the reasons for the difference in the value of multiplier in this case? It is the reasons is the difference in the amount that people consume or spend when new money comes in. تمام يعني ال value of multiplier اتغيرت ليه؟ عشان في difference في الامount that people decide to spend. So there is a positive relationship between MPC and the value of multiplier. The higher the marginal propensity to consume, the higher the value of multiplier. The lower the marginal propensity to save, the higher the value of multiplier. Let's take another example. We are given MPC equals 0.6, the equilibrium national income equals 150, and he gives me a new information that investment spending increases by $20. What is the new value of equilibrium national income? Okay, how to get the new value of equilibrium national income in this case? So we have to calculate the value of multiplier, which equals 1 over 1 minus b. 1 over 1 minus 0.6, it means equals 2.5. 2.5 معناها ايه؟ معناها for any increase in autonomous investment by 1 unit, for any increase in autonomous investment by 1 unit, equilibrium national income would increase by 2.5 monetary units. يعني أي زيادة في الانفستمنت $1 هتؤدي ل final increase in equilibrium national income ب $2.5. طيب أهو مديني إن ال investments increases by $20, so we multiply the $20 times the value of multiplier 2.5 and we get the change or the increase in equilibrium national income equals $50. So we add the change in income to the initial equilibrium value of national income, 150 plus 50, and we get the new equilibrium level of national income, which is equal $200. Now, how can we show our results graphically? Show graphically the effect of increasing autonomous spending by 20 units on the equilibrium national income. First of all, احنا بنبتدي بالinitial equilibrium at point E0, where the 45 degrees line, which represents the national income, is the supply side of goods and markets, intersect the aggregate expenditure line. As investment increase, طبعا investment ده autonomous or a given number, this would cause a upward shift in aggregate expenditure line from AE to AE1, and we are moving to a new equilibrium at E1. Okay, the vertical distance between the old and new aggregate expenditure line, this vertical distance represents the change in investment by 20 units. طبعا monetary units. Okay, so this change in investment would cause a change in income or a change in equilibrium national income by 50 monetary units. Okay, and the equilibrium national income would increase from 150 to 200 monetary units. دلوقتي أنا ممكن من الجراف ده أحسب تاني ال value of multiplier اللي هو بيساوي ال change in y over a change in I. لو حسبتوها يعني إحنا divide 50 over 20 which is equal to 2.5 هي نفسها ال value of 1 over 1 minus b. Okay, تاني from this graph we can calculate the value of multiplier by dividing change in y over a change in I. 50 over 20 which is equal to 0.5. It is the value of multiplier هي نفسها ال value of multiplier اللي بتساوي 1 over 1 minus b. لحد هنا احنا كده خلصنا الجزء الخاص بمحاضراتي في الماكرو ايكونومكس، وبإذن ربنا دكتورة حنان هتكمل معاكم الجزء الثاني. لو في أي أسئلة أو any comments اكتبوها لي وأنا هجاوب على كل أسئلتكم. بالتوفيق للجميع إن شاء الله. Now moving to the equilibrium position in a closed economy without government. طالما عندي دلوقتي government فهيبقى عندي government expenditures and taxes. ال government عندها budget، جزء طبعا البادجت ده اللي هو revenue، main source of revenue which is taxes، بستخدم ال revenue ده in order to make expenditures. برضو عندي two conditions of equilibrium. Condition number one, when real output which is the national income equals desired aggregate expenditures. تمام، يبقى ال Y equals aggregate expenditures which is consumption, investment plus government expenditures. لازم نحط في اعتبارنا دلوقتي ان ال consumption out of disposable income. Okay, so consumption function هتبقى A plus B Y D. Okay, Y D اللي هو Y minus T. ممكن التاكس تكون income tax، ممكن تكون lump sum tax، إما نسبة معينة من الانكم بتاعي أو رقم ثابت ملوش علاقة بالانكم. تمام. الكونديشن التاني when leakages equals injections. In this case we have two sources of leakages. أي حاجة بتتسحب من الانكم وبتقلله. اوكي، هي في الحالة دي saving والتاكسز. injections دي معناها ان بتبقى فلوس داخله الايكونومي بتاعتي وبالتالي بتزود الليفل اوف ناشونال انكم زي الانفستمنت وزي الجفرمنت اكسبندتشرز. لما نيجي بقى نحسب الملتبلاير in this case الجفرمنت spending multiplier هيساوي 1 over 1 minus b. 1 over 1 minus b نفس ال value of the multiplier in the closed economy with government هي نفسها the value of multiplier in the closed economy without government. نحط في اعتبارنا the greater the value of marginal propensity to consume, the more effect of the multiplier, and the smaller the value of marginal propensity to consume, the less effect of the multiplier. تمام، يبقى ال value of government multiplier 1 over 1 minus b. لما بجيب التاكس multiplier أنا بفاضل المعادلة اللي فاتت with respect to t هتبقى minus b over 1 minus b. طبعا لازم نكون فاكرين كويس إن ال value of tax multiplier is negative. ليه negative؟ Because when taxes increases it lowers the disposable income. تمام، وال value of government spending multiplier is greater than the value of tax multiplier. عشان كده لما بنيجي نحسب البالانس budget multiplier بنقول ايه؟ نفترض ان ال government expenditures زادت بنفس قدر زيادة ال taxes. What is the final impact على ال equilibrium level of national income؟ في الحالة ديت ال equilibrium level of national income is increased by the initial increase in both government expenditure and taxes. طب ليه؟ عشان ال value of government spending multiplier is greater than the value of tax multiplier. تمام، لو الاتنين value of multipliers كانوا بيساووا بعض كان ال net effect equal 0، لكن ال net effect it's not equal 0 it's equal 1 اللي هو ال 1 minus b over 1 minus b. ده معناها لو ال government expenditures and taxes increased by $10 في الحالة ديت ال equilibrium level of national income increased by $10. Why? Because the value of government spending multiplier is greater than the value of tax multiplier. when the foreign sector is active في الحالة ديت هيبقى عندي 4 sectors are active: household sector, production sector هو business sector, government sector and foreign sector. في الحالة دي أنا عندي an open economy. تمام. برضو ال condition of equilibrium بيحصل لما ال real output equals desired aggregate expenditures. real output equals consumption, which in this case equals A plus BYD, okay, plus government expenditures plus investment plus net export, X minus M, net export. Okay, and the other condition when leakages equals injections. leakages in this case احنا زي ما قلنا اللي هي بتبقى زي money deducted من الانكم عندي. saving, taxes and import, while injections are investment, government expenditures and taxes. في الحالة دي لما أجي أحسب ال spending multiplier under open economy، تمام، فرضا يعني أنا طبعا هبتدي بالequation in order to derive ال open economy multiplier. ببتدي من الequation بتاعت الإكويليبريم. أوكي، بعدين لو أنا عايزة أجيب with respect to investment، يعني عايزة أجيب ال final change in equilibrium level of national income per unit change in any of autonomous expenditures or autonomous components of aggregate demand. For example in this case أنا فضلت بالنسبة للinvestment، يعني بجيب ال final increase in equilibrium national income when investment increased by $1. في الحالة دي هتساوي 1 over 1 minus B plus M. برضو لازم نحط في اعتبارنا إن ال value of open economy multiplier is lower than the value of simple multiplier.